Rachel, I want to take you back in time. I want to take you back, I want to say, 72 hours in time?
I was going to say, can I go back to last week when I was drunk at a pool?
Yeah, no. Sadly, no. Taking you back only 72 hours where we're in this space, our lovely studio, and we're getting ready to record a podcast that ultimately was for naught. But here we we're sitting down, and we're going to end our big topic of the day was, man, the Leafs sure do blow a lot of leads, and they don't come ready to play. And then, like our technology goes awry, and we go, okay, well, I guess we'll have to, we'll have to do on Thursday. Maybe we won't have anything. Maybe we'll have to scrap that conversation because we won't have anything to talk about. Maybe they've gotten it all together.
We did not have to scrap that conversation.
Here we are, 72 hours later, and if anything, we need to have that conversation more.
So I want to kick off. I haven't even told you this yet.
Okay.
I have some fun little news for our podcast / just generally what we're going to be able to talk about on the show going forward. Yesterday evening, after 8 months of work, I finised the model.
Very cool. I did not know it was still in progress.
So basically, this is the big model. What I'd been doing in the last 8 months is building blocks of it. So I have one big model, but in order to make that big model, I needed 6 smaller models.
Okay.
So it's like finish that, finish that, finish that. Now I finally got it all done, and we will be able to talk in depth about player comparisons, player evaluations, player salaries, player values, like all of that, similarities, everything. There's going to be a dashboard eventually that you and I will get to click through. Public eventually will get there too. But now that it's actually done and ready, I put a whole bunch of it in my brain for this Leafs conversation today because I'm like, that's it. I'm cracking it out today.
If there's no better way to christen the model, I guess, with the Leafs, because so here we were like, again, fast rewind back to Monday here, and we're going to talk about how the Leafs had a disastrous weekend. They'd lost 3 in a row, but they they blew a massive lead, a 3-0 lead to Colorado at home, and we go, oh, terrible. And then they go back, and the Detroit Red Wings, who were stuck in Detroit in a situation I was monitoring, like they were stuck in Detroit because their engine, as I was told by other people, exploded. I don't think it actually did, but
it's probably a maintenance issue.
And they didn't arrive to Scotiabank Arena on Sunday night until 5:53 p.m. The puck drop was moved back to 7:30 and then moved back to 7:52 because I think it's like you have to have like 2 hours before a game. I think that's like a rule. And so the Leafs go out, and it's funny, everyone who I was talking to and monitoring the situation, they're like, they're losing it 100%. I'm like, yeah. And then for some reason I didn't bet on it. It's like, I like being poor, as I always say.
Guess who did bet on it though?
Yeah. and so it's they end up losing in a pretty pathetic fashion, if you will. And then, hey, redeeming time. They're going on the road. They're going to play Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, the red-hot Oilers, the hottest team in the league right now, 10 straight wins.
In a not nationally televised game for some
which is just absurd.
Reason.
We could go on all day about how dumb that is, but like...
But I am thankful that we did get Gord and Mike Johnson on the call.
The two best, yeah.
I mean...
I love Chris Cuthbert and everything.
I love CC.
Yeah, it's great. Look, I hosted a podcast my first ever podcast I hosted with his son. All right. Like, he's a good guy.
I love, no, but what I'm saying is like, having Mike Johnson do analysis is like my favorite thing ever. It adds another
thing to the game. They go out and they go up 2-0 and then they blow it again.
They started on time.
But you know what, Rachel? What should bring Leafs fans solace in these trying times is that Mitch Marner's not worried. He's not worried.
How is it?
They're actually good. You know what? No. They've been playing awesome hockey. Awesome hockey.
Should we dive into how that is deeply not true? Because I don't understand, and this is the thing, this is not to dump on Mitch Marner. How is it that every season, there is a quote from him that is just complete failure to read the room.
Yeah.
The temperature, like yes, it's not his job to take the temperature of the fan base, but I expect you, as somebody who wears a letter and makes nearly $11 million, to be able to gauge what is going on with your team accurately. And every year, at least once, we have a scenario where Mitch Marner says something where I'm like, this guy's complete lack of ability to appropriately gauge where the team is at is astonishing. And I don't know, like, what it is with them. Mike, what, like, my brain is short-circuiting because that quote has played in my head. And I think one thing I will say is the tweet that Luke Fox tweeted out, like the way it came off, and then I watched the video, and it obviously comes off a lot differently. But, like, what are we doing here?
This happens every year. Every team goes through ups and downs every season. It's funny, like the Leafs always start slow. It's always their thing. Pretty much under both Keefe and Babcock, they would come out and they would go.
I don't think it's the coaches anymore.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
But and we're going to get into that conversation because I think that's the main topic in Leafland right now.
It's a dumb conversation, by the way.
Keefe's future. I would like to have that conversation. Because I think I don't think it's. I think it's more nuanced than people are saying, and I think that there is validity maybe on both sides that we could explore. But all that. However, for someone like. There's a quote that always goes in my head, and it was from I think they had what was his name? They had Kyprios on the Steve Dangle podcast like years ago, like 2016 or something.
Yeah,
and they were talking about like different ways of like how Toronto Maple Leafs handled the media, and one thing was like Darcy Tucker always says he didn't read anything. And Kyprios is like, Darcy Tucker knew where the commas were in every story.
You know who didn't actually read anything? Matt Sundin.
Yes.
That guy never picked up a newspaper.
Like Darcy Tucker would bring it to, and I love Darcy Tucker. He would bring it to Matt Sundin basically. Like like Tucker's big thing was like, I don't read anything, and yet like the quote is he knew where the commas were. Like that's how
Mitch Marner's dad has highlighted versions of the Toronto Star.
Maybe it's not like maybe it's not Mitch Marner himself reading it, but for someone who says he doesn't pay attention to the outside noise, I've never seen someone pay more attention to the outside noise. Like clearly, he doesn't go on social media, doesn't do anything like that, but someone is either feeding him stuff or someone is like it I don't get it. And this is, I get that you want to be positive and I get that you want to sort of put things in perspective. But like, if you look at the trend of play, it has gone down over a long sample.
So let's look at the trend of play. Yeah. Let's get nerdy here.
And also, I know it's not his job to like reassure the fans or whatever, but it's also his job not to be inflammatory. And he had to have known that a quote like that after a game like that, after a stretch like that, would have been inflammatory. So yes, let's talk about their stretch of play.
Yeah. So when we talk about the Leafs, like last season, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league. And under Sheldon Keefe, they have been one of the best defensive teams in the league. When you look at it, where they are in the standings is exactly where they are analytically. They are middle of the pack in pretty much every important benchmark. Expected goals for, Fenwick for, Corsi for, and yes, their play when they're leading is downright embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I ran it through the model. Their play whilst leading is equivalent to that of the San Jose Sharks, who are in the hunt for Macklin Celebrini. That's the level of control of play we're talking about here.
The Leafs just beat the Sharks 7-1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like when the Leafs have a lead, they're effectively the San Jose Sharks. You are not winning when you are playing like that.
So what goes into that? Like, that's what I want to know is like, because we talk about how we don't think it's a coaching thing. And I guess this is, I guess the reason I can think that, or I guess the reason why we think that is that it's been like this throughout eras.
So I went, and one of the things I like to look at for coaching impacts is who's playing when.
Yes.
And I wanted to see if it was the coaching staff that was taking their foot off the gas. And what I found was in the ice time, let's call it discrepancies, the differences in ice time. When they are tied, they don't trust Timothy Liljegren. When they are down a goal, they love Timothy Liljegren. When they're up a goal, they love Timothy Liljegren. But when they're tied, he's one of their least used defensemen. It's very weird.
What is the rationale behind that? What would make you not want to play a player? What would make you want to ride a player when you need a goal or when you need to protect a goal? But when, what
those are the three high leverage situations.
Yeah. What makes the middle one the one where we're like, nope, no Timmy.
And the thing is the chart. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, like I wonder if it's just kind of one of those small sample things. Like, no, it is a V. Like,
yeah,
down one, tied, up one. And it's genuinely incredible. And so I look at it, and TJ Brodie's ice time and Morgan Riley's ice time are similar but somewhat declining when they're up a goal. But when they're up two, Sheldon Keefe absolutely he basically evens out his ice time completely. And what that tells me is the coaching staff is taking their foot off the gas when the Leafs go up two. And when the coaching staff takes your foot off the gas, guess who also takes their foot off the gas?
The players.
Exactly.
Now, I hate to pick on any certain player, but one thing that I've noticed over this stretch of games is that I'm seeing way too goddamn much of David Kampf.
So I'm with you. The other thing I'm noticing is the catastrophic errors being committed by TJ Brodie of late.
Okay, maybe that's another conversation we need to have because, is he washed?
I don't know. Should I run him through the model and see where he ranks out? Because I can do that. I can give you who TJ Brodie compares, who he is most like.
Who his player comparable is.
Exactly.
Look, if you can do that on the fly, go for it. Now, there's one thing that I do want to bring up. That it's a conversation or a topic that went under the radar at the start of the year. But TJ Brodie did lose his father unexpectedly in the summer, basically 2 weeks before training camp. So he actually missed the first little bit of training camp to deal with that, obviously. And look, we've seen how grief, basically, how traumatic events.
I've studied it
exactly
in school. Look at Brock Besser.
Look at Brock Besser. Look at Matt Murray. Look at anyone you can talk about. So that could be something that's going on. There's also the age factor. He is kind of getting up there. And also the fact that he plays a hard style. He's not the biggest hitter or whatever out there. He's not going to drop the gloves all the time, but he's defensively, he's a defensively inclined defenseman, almost pure defense.
Ready for these comparables?
Yeah, hit me.
They're not ideal.
What is it?
Nick Leddy.
Okay, that's not good.
Ryan McDonough. Fine.
Oh, okay.
Jack Johnson.
Oh!
Alex Goligoski.
Jack Johnson's still playing, right?
Yep.
He's on the Avs?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Dmitry Kulikov.
Oh, jeez.
We've got some saving grace here. Matthias Ekholm.
Ooh, that's not good for the Oilers.
And Jonas Brodin, who has also been hurt the majority of the year. That's who TJ Brodie is.
That's not as bad as I thought it would be.
But I listed 10. His most close comparisons are Nick Leddy, Ryan McDonough, Jack Johnson, and Alex Goligoski. When you are being paid what you're being paid.
$5 million, yeah.
And Nick Leddy, not a top 4 defenseman.
You know what's funny?
Jack Johnson, not top 4.
Well, yeah.
Alex Goligoski, not top 4.
That's a problem. What's funny about that is, so TJ Brodie's getting paid $5 on the dot. And I'm pretty sure either in their, last year, other than Jack Johnson, last year, pretty much all those players are getting paid in that range too.
Yeah.
Nick Leddy makes 4. Pretty sure Goligoski made 4 point something.
And we can all agree that is way too much.
Yeah. And I want to know what's happened to Ryan McDonough this year then.
Yeah.
He's just getting older, I guess, right? It's injuries and the grind of
being Ryan McDonough. Yeah.
I guess it's tough,
He's got to be. He's in his 30s, like TJ Brodie as well. So, I mean, I still can't believe that the Habs drafted him and traded him for Scott Gomez. That is one of the most underrated wild trades of the last 15 years. The fact that happen. But anyways, back to the Leafs.
Brody's 33. He's getting up there.
And when I'm comparing, like when his closest comparisons are guys that are bottom pairing defensemen, with the exception of Ryan McDonagh.
Or guys that are hurt.
Or guys that are hurt in Jonas Brodin. And he's playing on the top pair. It's a problem.
So this brings me to, I think, an important conversation that we can have, whether it's the sort of divide between where the problem is it front office or is it coaching? Because I think that at the end of last season, my sort of like post-mortem column was that the Leafs need to get a new coach. Like I firmly believed at the end of that of the Florida series that Sheldon Keefe was not the guy for this team. For some reason, you kept seeing like David Kampf in offensive zone draws in the playoffs when you needed a goal.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
There was it seemed like there was some sort of mandate about, never go to the middle of the ice. But for some reason, like it was just stuff like that. And also playing Justin Hall 20 minutes when he was on for literally 75% of the goals against in all situations. Crazy. And so, but
that was another tone deaf quote by Marner too.
Yeah, that Justin Hall got a lot of hate, and look, he's wanting to defend his boy.
I get it. But like, maybe don't.
But like, even
maybe don't.
Like if I was in a press conference and I was playing you, I'd be like, Rachel got a lot of unnecessary hate. Like you want to stand up for your boy or
but
gal.
If you win, okay, you just coughed up
to a team that showed up like in half gear, like they're in tight.
Exactly, like a tight game.
Yes.
Let's maybe once again read the room and not do that.
Well, maybe Mitch Marner just pays so little attention to the outside noise that he just can't read the room. He's become room illiterate.
Illiterate.
But the big thing here is that there are problems with Keefe. Like there just are. And
every coach has flaws without exception.
And every coach leans on players they shouldn't. Every coach, every year it was, okay, is Dubas going to take away Babcock's toys now? Every coach has their toys. But then I look at the roster, and I tweeted this out later that night, and I really did kind of ruminate on it. Is this the worst? Like, would you rather have this Leafs roster, or would you rather have the 2019-20 roster, which was like the first year of Kerfoot and Barry and CC? Like,
absolutely that roster.
The 2019-20?
Yes.
Yeah, because at least it had like Jake Muzzin and Trevor Moore and guys on it.
So I look at this.
Is this the worst? This is the worst roster I think they've had of the other than the first year when they were playing Washington. I think this is the worst roster they've had to surround the Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares core.
Gregor's really fallen off.
He has, yeah. But he's a PTO guy. What do you expect?
No, but that's what I'm saying. So why is he playing over Nick Robertson? Why? Like, I don't get. Bobby McMahon, God bless him.
He's a grinder.
Should not be playing over Nick Robertson. Like, if I'm Brad Treliving, I tell Sheldon, you're playing Nick Robertson or I'm sending Bobby McMahon down so that you can't use him. Because you have this player, we've discussed that you need value on these contracts based on where the Leafs are from a salary cap perspective. Nick Robertson is scoring when he's in the lineup.
Yeah,
Put him in the lineup!
It's also, like, the Leafs, and it's crazy to say this for a team that, has, like, the firepower they do, but, like, they need secondary scoring. They do. Tyler Bertuzzi has, like, what, 5 goals on the year, 6 goals? Like, Max Domi has 2.
Now, he's contributing, so Tyler Bertuzzi's on-ice impacts have been fantastic.
But that's dipped lately, though.
It's dipped. I would say the past 3 games is dipped, but generally speaking, even though he's not scoring, his on-ice impacts have actually been very good.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But you still need to put the puck in the net, though.
If I'm Toronto, this is not an all-in year, I would consider moving Tyler Bertuzzi at the deadline to recoup some assets.
That's that's the next conversation I want to have with this. But right, like, for now, you look at the signings, right? Like, in the offseason.
David Kampf, Ryan Reeves.
to 4 years to be a 4th line center. You know that he can't play in the top 9. You know that. Like, we've seen it.
Don't make me hit the sign.
Yeah.
Don't make me hit the sign.
Yeah,
Stop giving term and money to bottom 6 players.
Yeah, and we got tax right off the dog out in full effect now. So you had you extended David Kampf for 4 years at 2.4 when you're in the middle of a cap crunch. Not great, considering that you have a guy in Pontus Holmberg who you're now trusting on the first line.
And he's looked great.
But
points in 6 and 7 games.
But you shouldn't be A contending team doesn't have Pontus Holmberg on first line wing. That just
no,
doesn't
they have
happen.
Matthew Nyes there.
Exactly.
Nick Robertson.
Or Nick Robertson. Or anyone. And then on top, so then you signed John Klingberg. Did you not do a physical?
Probably not.
Did you, and he was coming off the worst season of his career, and yet you gave him 4.15 in a cap crunch. Okay, whatever. Ryan Reeves.
That is the most egregious of the bunch.
Give him 3 years, and you can shoo away and go, 1.35, it's variable, whatever. Still, that's like assets. That's a roster spot.
That's Ed Rogers is going to be pissed that you're spending $1.35 million that is not being used.
That's assets. That's a roster spot, a contract slot. A guy and that's also a guy that you insert into the room and everyone loves him, but he can't play. So you have to make a difficult decision to waive him or send him down, and that ruffles things, and it's just unnecessary. After that, you extend, and you have to extend Ilya Samsonov. He played well, so I get that. No one expected the fact that Ilya Samsonov would fall off completely. But then there's Gregor to a PTO. That kind of worked out. Bertuzzi at 5.5. I know his on ice contributions are good, but at a certain point you need to score.
Yeah.
Especially if you're making 5.5, you have to. Max Domi, his on ice contributions have been fine, but clearly Keefe doesn't trust him. We've seen that. Jonas Siegel got friggin' flamed for 3 weeks straight because he said what a lot of people were too scared to realize or didn't want to realize. And he's also making 3. You need to score. He's 2 goals.
The thing with Sheldon Keefe is
the best signings are Simone Benoit,
incredible,
Noah Gregor, and William Lagesson. Those were the 3 best signings in a summer that you spent $17 million.
Not great.
That's not okay.
No. And I think the thing with Sheldon Keefe is actually not just Sheldon Keefe. Any coach, if you're going to fire them, in my mind, you got to bring in somebody better.
Yeah, and who goes in?
But the thing is now I do think there are better options. Dean Evison is available. Gerard Gallant is available. Quite frankly, Bruce Boudreau is available.
Bruce Boudreau is available. Jay Woodcroft's available. Even friggin' Craig Berube is available. They're guys.
I'm not sold on Craig Berube with this law. Dean Evison Jay Woodcroft would probably be the guys.
Dean Evison's what they need, man. Dean Evison is what they need. A guy who is firm and would anytime, any of the crap that we're seeing, we're playing awesome hockey in the middle of a losing streak.
You're no, we're not.
cut that out. And any of that, but he's also not a pure tyrant. Players will love him. He's the tough, firm hand that, guides you.
Right.
And perfect.
Yeah. I think there are options. And at this point, I do think some of the decisions that were made in the summer were incorrect. And you and I talked about this at the time. And now we're seeing it in the play, right? We're seeing the
what
expected
decisions
goals.
Specifically do you think were wrong?
David Camp,
yep.
Ryan Reeves, John Klingberg, and as much as I like him as a human, keeping Sheldon Keefe. Frankly, actually, can we rewind? Losing Kyle Dubas.
I was going to say, you're missing a big one there. And look, Dubas was not perfect, but
there was a direction.
He had a plan. Yes, there was a direction. I don't know what kind of team Brad Treliving wants this team to be. I don't. And I up until mid-November, I was around this team every day. And I saw it, and I still didn't know what their identity is. And also, I know this team doesn't. Look, I hate to pull this now, but man, this team does not respect Sheldon Keefe. They don't.
So I was thinking about something. Ottawa is where they are, and they're looking at making some moves. Obviously not Stutzler or Kachuk or Norris.
Chikrin's back on the market, apparently.
But it looks like they're gauging the market on, and that's what you should be doing when you're a new front office. You need to gauge the market, frankly, on all of your players, probably outside of Brady Kachuk, because he's a unicorn.
Even Stutzler?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
German on German crime right here. Wow.
If I called you and said, I'll trade you Mitch Marner for Tim Stutzler, you'd be like, yes, absolutely.
Straight up?
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about this from Ottawa's perspective or Toronto's perspective?
From Ottawa's perspective.
Oh, then absolutely. I'm like, if you tell me that in Toronto,
but you know what I'm saying?
I'd go to your house and I'd shoot you.
No, but what I'm saying is there are players you trade Tim Stutzler for.
Absolutely.
If Colorado lost their mind and said, we're going to trade you Devin Taves with a contract extension, you'd be like, yes, we're going to do that.
I'd give them my firstborn child for Devin Taves with that contract extension.
So what I'm saying is you're gauging the market.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Chikrin is somebody that I think could play in Toronto.
They were in on him last year. People laughed at me, but they were in on him last year. I knew that. I uncovered. I did my insider sources, scoops. They were there. They were on it. They were.
Yes,
they were
absolutely
actively pushing towards getting him. It would have been 2 firsts, and they eventually parlayed that into other things. But they were in on him.
Yes, and so I think when you look at it, there are trades that can be made around the league. I don't think Tyler Bertuzzi has worked out, and I think the best course of action here is there are going to be contenders that want him.
Mm-hmm.
You are very clearly not a contender this year in the sense of like you're not in the same echelon as a Boston, a Colorado, like.
And that's a disaster, though. Like to not be like. I saw, you're right. I saw that, and I saw the presumption from, I think it was Myrtle who wrote a column about it or something, where he was like the Leafs shouldn't buy this year. And I looked at that and I go, that's insane. Like every year that you have Matthews and Marner and Nylander, especially, and at the start of the year, I look at this and I go, okay, well, they'll never have Nylander this cheap again. He's going to cost like literally 2 times as much.
Yep.
You know, like they're never going to have.
But this is the ideal time. You move from Tyler Bertuzzi. That guy gets you a first round pick at the deadline.
Oh, he did easily. Last year. You get it this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What are you going to need going forward? You are going to need first round draft picks to come in your lineup and play on ELC. So if you have the opportunity to get one right now, you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing that. Right. And I think the fan base would look at it. I certainly, from an analytics perspective, would look at this and go, you are not a contending team. From an analytics perspective, from an eyeball perspective, you're not a true contender in the same way. And like, you can absolutely spare me that Vancouver's a contender. They're a Thatcher Demko injury away from barely making the playoffs. Winnipeg is a contender. That is a proper contender. And so
I never would have expected that sentence to be for you
Rick
to speak
bonus, man.
For you to speak that sentence and for me to heartily agree with it. I would have you would have had to check me into Cam H. I thought that, but yeah, you're right.
So if you can trade Tyler Bertuzzi, I think it would show the fan base that you have some self-awareness and a process of like, okay, we're not good enough this year. So what we're going to do is set ourselves up so that next year and the year after and the year after, that's when we can get like players. The draft this year is decent. Like it's not elite.
It's not what was it last year? It's not last year's draft, but it's this year's draft.
It's a lot better than 2022. Like you're going to get a decent player no matter what. And so I look at this and I go, if you can draft a player that's going to be ready in 2 years, someone like a Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton type, okay, well, when William Nylander and Austin Matthews are making the money that they're making and you need other players to step up, those are players that might be able to do that. And if you can do that by recouping, because you know you're not re-signing Tyler Bertuzzi, to me, it is asinine to not move him if you know you're not re-signing him. Now, if you know you're re-signing him to 6 years at $4.5 million, okay, maybe. But otherwise, I think you have to trade him.
It's difficult because I look at the way the salary is structured here, and I do kind of look at this team and in that they need exactly what they needed at last year's deadline. It is exactly the same, and I know because they pretty much lost everyone they traded for, but like last year they went to the deadline. They needed a top 4 defenseman and they needed a top 9 or preferably top 6 forward. That's what they needed. They went out and they got Jake McCabe, Luke Shen, Eric Gustafson, all that, and then they got Ryan O'Reilly. You know,
I have liked the Jake McCabe acquisition. I think that was a fantastic acquisition.
For this year and next at $2 million, phenomenal. And listen, maybe getting rid of Sam Lafferty wasn't the best idea, but who knows?
He was also never going to play on the first line here.
Exactly. But it's really tough to reconcile that. Like I say this just from a non-analytics, but just sort of like someone who covers the team, watches them. Like it's tough to reconcile selling for the Leafs this year.
But look at what Dallas did a few years ago, right? They were kind of in this mid-rut situation. New York's a little different because they actually won a lottery and picked first and second in 2 consecutive years. The Leafs are never going to do that. Whereas if you look at Dallas, right, they hit on Rupa Hintz, Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger was a late first round pick. But they didn't continuously buy at deadlines. There were some deadlines where they traded assets out that were expiring that they knew they couldn't re-sign. And those picks turned into Jason Robertson, Rupa Hintz. Now they've got Logan Stankoven coming. Like that
Maverick
is how
Bork.
Maverick Bork. I mean,
everyone.
They have a collection of prospects now. And it's because they made the decisions they made. They were never out. They were never, but they did like an Uno reverse on being a contender so quickly because Jim Nill made the decisions that he made. And I think that is where the Leafs can really, this season is done. They're not a contender.
I mean, they're in a playoff spot.
They're not a contender. With that goaltending, no chance.
Well, they're not gonna have Martin Jones in the playoffs.
But you don't know what Joseph Woll is gonna be when he comes back. You truly have no idea. And so I think it's a disservice to your team and the future if you don't do what Dallas did a few years ago and flip some of those assets so that you can better prepare yourself for the future.
I almost seem, and the Raptors are on my mind because of the Pascal Siakam trade yesterday, but like it almost seems like maybe a Rudy Gay type situation they could be into where they trade a guy like Bertuzzi for maybe like futures, but like, maybe some other lower key pieces. And you realize that those guys just kind of fit better.
Yes.
And potentially, bring you to where you need to be. Maybe, you get like another sort of bottom six defenseman or someone that's like,
there's a decent chance that Tyler Bertuzzi nets you a second pairing defenseman. There's a pretty decent chance of that.
And what, you're gonna cry over losing his 6 goals? Like it's now. It is hard to rationalize or sort of justify selling when this is the last year William Nylander is going to cost $6.9 million. When Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and also like although Tavares has dipped recently, like he was playing very, very well up until basically the new year, and he's gonna be 33 next year, I believe, or 34. Yeah. Like you don't have the luxury of time that some of these other teams do. You just don't, because Dallas didn't have the superstars on the roster that they needed to squeeze everything out of. And to be fair, like we mocked Ken Holland for saying, oh, you can't go in all in every year when you have McDavid and Draisaitl. And I know that Matthews and Marner are not on that level.
Matthews is on the same level as those players. Marner is not.
But like you have, but I'd counter that in that you have 4 really, really good players, and the
Edmonton
clock is
has
ticking.
Hyman and Nugent Hopkins, who are both performing better than Marner right now.
Yeah, well,
Edmonton has 4 players that are performing better than Mitch Marner.
You don't have to sell me on Mitch Marner's not playing well right now. Believe me.
But all I'm saying is like you cannot continue. You know that this year is not the year.
Mm-hmm.
So at least in Edmonton, it's different because if those two get red hot, it could be your year.
Matthews is red hot. He's going to score 70 goals this year.
And it's still not the Leafs' year. Yeah. So that's the difference there, right? And so you look at it and I go, it's not your year this year. You can't go all in. You have to set yourself up so that maybe you can go all in next year. Right?
Is there a way to not like, and we'll move on after this, I guess, but is there a way to to not sell, but to retool? I know that I sound like a hockey man when I say this, but like you said, there's a way where Tyler Bertuzzi can net you a second pairing defenseman, or there's a way that maybe like Max Domi can get you the depth defenseman or the second round pick and the depth player that might spur you.
I think you could go after like a younger player. Yes.
Because I think that this team has the bones to make it happen, but as they're constructed right now, everyone on the roster is overtaxed. The top guys are getting played way too much.
Like I think obviously this trade wouldn't make any sense, but I think a player like Tyler Bertuzzi could net you somebody like Mario Ferraro out of San Jose, like that type of defenseman.
What about like you get like what about like Noah Hannafin?
I'm not sure Calgary would do that
just because they're in a different spot, but like. Or just someone like if you traded,
could Tyler Bertuzzi net you Linus Ullmark? Could Tyler Bertuzzi because if Boston does really want,
and they really like him, They tried. It looked like they were moving cap space to try and sign him like in the offseason. That's basically why they traded Taylor Hall, and then they just didn't work out. But like, I think that there is and it's a different situation, but like a Rudy Gay from Toronto-esque scenario where you trade a guy who has a good reputation, who can get you some stuff, but clearly doesn't fit, maybe not fit your timeline, maybe doesn't fit your system. He just doesn't fit the environment. And you trade him for, like you said, a Mario Ferraro and maybe something else, or or like a collection of depth guys to go in, and they do fit better. They give you kind of what you need. And it's not necessarily selling, it's retooling, because as much as it might make sense from an analytics perspective, might make sense from the cold calculated perspective, you cannot punt on a year when you're the Leafs, and especially in the last year, the Nylanders will be making 50% of what he's going to be making for the next decade.
I totally disagree with you.
Really?
I think if you don't punt on this year, you're a fool. Yeah, you're an absolute fool. And you're playing your fan base like they're fools, and you're telling your players. Frankly, I think the best thing for that dressing room is to say, we're punting on this year because you haven't been good enough.
Well, they did that.
You don't deserve it.
They did that in 2019 and 2020, and it didn't really do anything. Like it didn't sort of nothing. And then again, COVID.
Now, I think it's a little different. One, COVID.
Yeah.
But two, you're fully in your contending window, and now you're getting a mandate from Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving that you frankly haven't been good enough to deserve to go all in.
Yeah.
Figure it the hell out.
Although if I'm Austin Matthews, I'm on pace for 70 goals this year. And I get a mandate now coming down that this team is not good enough, so we're not going to rebuild, or we're not going to.
You're signed to a contract. Sucks.
I know I am, but I would be furious.
Right, but then you know what? Start calling your buddy out. You haven't been good enough. You haven't been good enough. The body language is unacceptable.
I have never seen, and we'll move on right after this, I promise. But I have never seen, and this will go back to my days covering Marlies. I've never seen someone produce more empty calorie points than Mitch Marner does. I remember I used to cover Marlies games. I used to sit in the press box, used to be watching the game and going, man, Jeremy Bracco sucks tonight. I have not seen him do anything. And then the second period will come and they will put they will put the game sheet down in front of you, and I'll look and he will have 2 secondary assists. And I'll go, what? When did that happen? And they're losing 5-2 or something.
Yeah.
And that is what Mitch Marner is doing. You can look at his point totals. He's over a point per game. And all
That's great, but they're all on goals that
don't matter.
They're not in high leverage situations.
They're not high leverage situations, and like if you look at his charts, any of the nerdy stuff that you're into, you sick freak. They've dipped there. I've never seen more red on Marner's ledger than this year, and yet here we are right after the Nylander extension. I dig around and they're preparing for a big ask. I like at this point, the way that Marner is playing right now, he doesn't deserve, he deserves 11 instead of 11.5. He doesn't deserve to make the same amount as William Nylander right now. And Nylander has dipped a lot since signing that contract too, which is not great, but this team just doesn't lack the depth, or this team doesn't have the depth. So they lack the depth that you need. You cannot be playing, as much as I love Simone Benoit, he's been great, but he's not on a contender. He's not on your second pair.
Mitch Marner's closest comparisons
are
actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
William Nylander.
Oh, okay.
Mark Stone.
Oh,
Philip Forsberg. Sam Reinhart.
Mm-hmm.
Artemi Panarin. Mark Scheifele. None of those players make $13 million, Paul. None of them.
Why is he if that's his comparables? All those players have been playing well this year. What?
Braden Point actually is the last one. $9 million. Yes, he took a haircut. Okay, so to have the audacity to walk in there and say, I want 13, pound salt. Your performance doesn't deserve it.
Get ready to learn free agentese, buddy. As I've said.
Let's
move on to the All-Star jerseys. Again,
quickly,
we flash back to Monday where we were going to talk about these. Thankfully, we waited because we've now seen sort of a preview of what the names are going to look like on the back. And what the fuck, man? Like, what?
What are those? So here's the thing: is like, I actually like the jerseys.
We love them.
Everything but the yellow one.
Even I will give you
But the blue and the red ones are epic. I want one.
Yes, the red one, the blue one, like all that.
And the thing is okay, like the Miami Vice ones last year, so sick.
Love those because they fit where they were.
Right. And the thing I like about these ones is Justin Bieber is obviously a Toronto home dog. He's a Leafs fan. And in talking to people in the fashion space, my cousin owns a men's clothing store. And so he does like fashion. He's actually in Paris right now, doing all of that stuff. He was saying that they're actually looking at purchasing all-star jerseys because a lot of people in the fashion scene want them as pieces because they don't have names, like they don't have the division name on it. It literally is like a star with like the Drew vibes, and people want them as fashion pieces, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You can get that. I mean, not that I'm expecting somebody to wear it on a runway, but if you're walking around town wearing an all-star jersey, like, isn't that kind of what you should want if you're the NHL?
Absolutely,
like,
you should want that.
People that wouldn't traditionally be interested now are going to be interested. Don't get a name on the back though, because the font is horrendous.
I'm not even really that down on like the font or even the fact that it's all lowercase, because that clearly they're trying to appeal
that fits
to
the Drew.
That's Gen Z. Like that is their.
That's also the Drew collab.
Like that.
They're all lowercase.
But like that's like how your sister texts, for example. Like that's the age group they're trying to get. Like it's everything is lower. Everything's lowercase, right? Like it's all that. That
drives me nuts.
Yeah, but it's totally fine. They say when you hit 25, you go into your phone settings, you hit auto capitalization, and that's when your frontal lobe kind of fully develops.
I never turned it off.
I never either. But like when I tweet, I do lowercase just because it's more fun and it makes it less formal. But I hate my least favorite thing on modern jerseys these days, and this has happened in the NBA and I guess now the NHL with the All-Star jerseys, is having the last name under the numbers. It's why on earth would you make that decision? You can fit the last name above the numbers. Why under? It looks gross. You want the last name to sort of like span the shoulder blades. It fits. It makes sense. And also, not to be a boomer, it's the way we've been doing it forever.
Well, I just think there's so many guys that tuck their jerseys in, and now there's like now you don't like if if a person wants to tune in because Justin Bieber is going to be there, and you can bet your bottom dollar. Look how many girls are tuning in because Taylor Swift's at Chiefs games. She ain't even playing.
I'm seeing retirement fan edits for Jason Kelce from Swifties.
Right, and so if you don't think Bieber fans are tuning into the All-Star game, this is your chance.
You mean believers?
Sure. This is your chance to really like reach them potentially, because there's going to be so many more eyeballs. They're probably going to be like, who's that? Well, I don't know, because their jersey's tucked in. Like
Matthew Tkachuk tucks in the back, because I don't think
Ovechkin tucks in the back. Not that he's going to be there.
I don't think you're allowed to tuck in the sides anymore, but you can tuck in the back, I guess.
They don't care about that rule anymore.
Oh, they don't? Okay.
No. You're technically not allowed to do it, but like, I mean, we had this discussion in Vancouver. Like, they don't care. Quinn tucks his jersey in the side all the time. Nobody cares, because it's the numbers that matter, right? They can see the numbers, and you can't. I'm sure
and
if
you
have
can see the last name
all the way in. They don't want the jersey all the way in. The only person that's allowed to do it is Ovechkin, and it's funny because the rationale behind that is if you don't know who Ovechkin is, that is your problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the All-Star jerseys as like a fashion piece are actually kind of sick.
They look cool. It sucks that you can't get a name on the back though. Like that because it will look so bad.
I wouldn't get a name on the back anyways. I don't think.
I would.
I
would. Like,
if I'm wearing but think about it. If I'm wearing it as a fashion piece,
yeah, I guess
I'm not
so.
getting a name on the back.
But if it's up top, like I find that like some of my favorite fashion pieces now are like obscure jerseys, you know, like from players that
a Boone Jenner All-Star jersey, baby.
Boone Jenner All-Star jersey, or like one that's going around is like at like Coachella is like an Antonio Brown Raiders jersey, you know?
Jesus
like
Christ.
Stuff like that. Where he never actually played like a regular season game for them. He played like half of one preseason game, stuff like that. It would be fun to get something like that. Get like an Alexander Georgiev like All-Star jersey.
Ridiculous.
Just stuff like that. But now you can't, because it looks terrible, and it's a shame. Everything except for that name bar, top notch. Love it. But as always, it seems like the NHL.
Fit check out of 10.
Well, I mean, with the name bar now, it's like 7.5, I guess. I was gonna say like 9.
I was going 9 without the name bar. So like the one I'm gonna get is gonna be
so it'll be a 9
name bar. So it's gonna be a 9.
But like with the name bar, and we have to judge that because that's what the players will be wearing. It's got to be 7.5 because it knocks down a 1.5 stars. All right, PWHL segment, our PWHL report. Woo-hoo.
The first edition.
Our first edition, and boy oh boy, has it been a smashing success so far. And I think the number one thing that we should talk about in this PWHL report, Rachel, is the fact that people care. It seems like people want to watch women's hockey. There is a tangible market for it.
There's records being broken left, right, and center. And obviously people are going to say like, oh, will it be sustained? And yes, we do need to figure out if it's going to be sustained. But the fact that season tickets are being sold out, the atmosphere has been incredible. Like I've watched quite a few of the games, even when I was in Mexico, like because they're available on YouTube for me to just watch,
which
without
is
geo-blocking.
With that alone might make this product sustainable, because just the ability to be like
hockey highlights. Hello.
Like access is so important. Like I've been going home to see my parents every weekend, and like, you know, just to be able to, and they love to watch movies and stuff, and there's a lot of great shows or great movies that they would watch, but they don't because it's just too complicated for them to get into certain ways. They have to subscribe to something to do this. Having them on YouTube where you can have ad revenue, you can do all that, and you can just click a button and boom, it's right there on your computer or on any device around. That is so important.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I was able to catch a few games. I really like some of the rules, like the jailbreak rules. So if you score a shorthanded goal, you've killed the penalty. Yeah. You've actually killed the penalty.
That's amazing.
I think that's incredible. But like some of these numbers we're looking at here, like Minnesota drew over 13,000 people at the XL Energy Center, which is where the Wild play.
NHL rank. Yeah.
That's exactly
13,316 on January 6th. And that's the most important thing that's ever happened on January 6th, by the way.
Yep.
And
but the first ever game had over 2 million total viewers. Yeah. That's more than any NHL game.
They had almost 2.9 million total viewers, an average, and this is important, an average of 1.113.
That is literally more than any NHL game this year.
Phenomenal. To put in perspective, like Toronto, Tampa, like last year, the most vaunted playoff series there is, like everyone in the country, everyone around the globe is watching it. That averaged 2.7. And they're doing 1.113 for the first ever game of a league that is brand new in a product that people have said is not sustainable. Clearly, we're seeing it's
and now they're going to the All-Star game, so they're going to get a ton of coverage there. And I mean, you look at it, it's their personalities.
They're great.
That is why people are interested. Like Sarah Nurse is doing "Get Ready with Me" to go to my game on TikTok, which is incredible.
It's awesome.
You've got the fact that Billie Jean King is on board. She's talking about it. She's at the Australian Open this week, and she mentioned the PWHL on the broadcast. How many people in Australia probably hadn't heard of it?
Like, g'day, mate. What's this?
Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, you say that. I went, don't ask me why, to the Queen and Spadina McDonald's the other day and met 2 Australians. And one of them had said that they went to the Toronto, Colorado game, but they were looking forward to going to the women's hockey game because they don't have that in Australia, and they wanted to do something that they didn't have at home. So not only are you getting people here that are interested, there are tourists coming that are like, you know what? Hell of a lot more affordable to go watch the women's hockey game at Maple Leaf Gardens. I'm going to do that.
We're going to throw some shrimp on the barbie and hop in our Kangaroo and our Joeys and go down and
our Blunnies. Don't forget the Blunnies.
Or nor how they say it. Yeah, look, that's
TSN.
That's
I want to shout out Claire Hanna, Mackenzie Malone, Cheryl Pounder.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic coverage. Incredible coverage. And then on the sports side, Andy Petrillo, freaking queen on CBC. I love Andy Petrillo. Haley Salvian, like they're killing it, and the analysis that they bring is making the game, like they're offering better analysis than I see on most hockey broadcasts for the NHL. And I'm not being facetious. Like the way they discuss the game is, one, much more accessible to a fan or a potential fan that hasn't been one. And so I just think the PWHL is doing a fantastic job of really going out and trying to bring fans on board that would be non-traditional. And it's a welcoming space. The PWHL account on YouTube streams is so funny and it's really engaging. And so I think
they have good moderators too, apparently.
That's what I mean. Like the first couple of weeks, smashing success.
Even last, like I know they play in a smaller arena in Toronto because it's the Madme Athletic Center. But last night, I believe it was Toronto and Ottawa. Another sellout. You know, people are hyped up. The best thing that you can
you and I are going to go to a game.
Absolutely. But the best thing you can possibly see. I live near, like it's their arena is like in the grocery store I go to. You know, like
which is a travesty that is a grocery store. The
center ice is literally right by the Plum Sauce.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But no, Mike and I have plans. We're going to go to a game. We're going to have some PWHL players on the pod, which I'm very excited about.
But the best part about this is you need to make the PWHL accessible and also just sort of like accepted as one of the sports that people watch. And the best thing to see is I was walking downtown a couple nights ago and I'm walking past bars and they're playing them on their TVs. I can see from outside.
Amazing.
That is, you should be able to say, PWHL's on night. I want to be able to go to the bar, watch the game.
And now you can. Because guess what? Sportsnet and TSN have made it accessible.
Which is, look, great. And you're at home and you go, I don't have cable. So does this mean I can't watch it? YouTube.
Done.
And there you go.
Great job by everyone involved.
Yeah, this is great.
The first edition of the PWHL Report had no drama, just vibes.
Yeah, love it.
And the vibes meter is going to be going all the way up, I think.
And I would like when it comes to on-ice drama or even or like rivalry drama, I feel like there will be a lot of that. And
they had the handshake fiasco where the league had to issue a statement, thank God,
saying
right
there's
on
a
top of that.
miscommunication that because after every game the teams shake hands. And I believe it was New York that forgot to do it or something.
New York was told that they didn't have to do it, apparently.
So they left, but then it seemed like a slap in the face.
Yeah, and then Corey Chevry was like, that we weren't told that.
Yeah.
So then the league issued a statement today saying there will be handshakes. And a bunch of people were like, see, it doesn't work. Just so everyone is clear, in every league pretty much except North American ones, they shake hands after games. Like in every hockey league in Europe shakes hands after games. In minor hockey here, they shake hands after games. They shake hands after games in a playoff series. And we all are like, oh, here come the handshakes.
And
part.
Yeah.
And now that the PWHL wants to do it, we have a bunch of old white dudes curmudgeoning it. Like, come on, man.
My favorite thing is watching, is being at playoff games and or after series ends and being around the older hockey writers and see them getting ready to just nut basically when they see the handshake's coming up, the what's the name, look at this, look at that, they have the same type of reaction. It's great. They love the handshake line. And I think it's
great. It's good sportsmanship. You're growing the game.
Yeah.
It's showing good examples to younger athletes, which I think we need because we have far too many examples of athletes being degenerate human beings. So I think the PWHL is not only are they setting records, they're doing a fantastic job in how they've set up their league, and I'm really excited about it.
Great. So that's been the PWHL Report, and this has also been the podcast. We'll be back on Monday. Hopefully our technology will not turn on us like it did before last Monday. But obviously subscribe to the YouTube and all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that. We have some cool stuff that we're likely going to be rolling out soon. Even more stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun. Subscribe to Twitch. We do streams.
We're gonna do another Mike's Meals for One.
Yes, that's
over All-Star break. We're gonna do that.
That'd be great. All-Star edition of Mike's Meals for One. I'll have to make stuff in the shape of a star, so I'll have to do that. And then, I guess that's pretty much it. And also, shout out to Jumpstart, our charity of choice. We love them. They help economically disadvantaged kids play team sports, which is extremely important and a seminal kind of life experience for them. So if you can donate, we really, really encourage you to do so. The link is in our bio. Jumpstart, our charity of choice. We love them, and we will see you on Monday.